year is 1226 AD. Like much of the world, Calradia is engulfed in near constant conflict over control of land and wealth. Death stalks the fields, freshly watered by the blood of lowborn men. The hooves of massive war beasts pound the earth like drums. Amid the chaos can be found peace and tranquility, but only that which is brought on by the eternal sleep. It is in this cruel world that we are acquainted with our hero, Yeoman Robert of Gersagos. He was but a simple farmer, owning a paltry plot of land on the outskirts of his lord's castle. While the monotony of farm life can be soul-crushing at times, at least his belly suffers not from want. And while the privileges of being a yeoman are few and far between, having this small farm to call his own was enough to keep poor Robert happy. That is, until Gersagos fell and his lord's control over the region ended, taking Robert's lands with it. Dejected, hopeless, now hungry, Robert fled for the safety of the nearby town of Seonan. It was a grand city, at least compared to that of the other Batannian cities. More importantly, it offered comfort and solace for Robert, drinking and gambling at the tavern. I can think of no better pairing in life than sorrow, inebriation, wagering, save perhaps combative prowess and a bloodthirst for revenge, all of which Robert would soon be acquainted with. After several drinks and a few games of bugchaw, Robert was penniless. In a drunken stupor, he meandered his way about the tavern, contemplated punching the gamesmen, but decided to head outside and search for a place to relieve himself. The nearby alleyway proved to be the furthest from ideal for poor Robert, as this was property of Red-Eye Iron, a fearsome gang leader. Not one gifted with gab, Robert stumbled his way into a street brawl and quickly found himself resting peacefully on the floor, patiently waiting for consciousness to return to him. When he awoke, he was greeted by a warm, albeit sinister, smile. Red-Eye Iron himself was there, in the flesh. He had a proposal for Robert, one of employment. Thieves have a way of smelling desperation, or perhaps it was the vomit and urine. Either way, he wanted Robert's help in expanding his territory to the western city of Maranatha. His first task? To gather intelligence on the two gang leaders in the area and report back. If accepted, Robert would leave his former life and begin anew as a bandit, a thief, a scoundrel. There would be no turning back. The choice, however, was quite simple, as there was nothing to turn back to. And so begins the tale of Robert of Gersagos.
If you're not excited for this Let's Play after an intro like that, you might need to get your pulse checked. I'm your host Strat, and today we begin our ultra-realistic, hardcore Robin Hood Bandit series. Let's jump right into it. So we're looking at Batannia for our culture. It's probably the closest thing to the Anglo-Saxons in this list, and we are definitely going to be taking full advantage of that extra movement speed in the forests and the sight range bonus. We already have a pre-planned character. I have no clue what this guy looked like in real life. Nobody does, but I'm assuming he's just an ordinary guy, so we went with nothing, remarkable there. And for building the character, we have these pre-selected already. So we're going with Forester for cunning. We're going with leadership to level our cunning. We're going with hunt small game, pick up a point in control, camp followers for cunning, and save the village from a flood for more cunning. And we're going with 40 years old so we can get a few extra focus points and attribute points. We will run the risk of dying somewhat early, but in a let's play like this, I don't think we're going to be going too long. You know, this isn't like a world conquest or anything like that. So let's go ahead, name our character, and we are doing ultra realistic, so basically everything's going to be on the hardest possible, birth and death enabled. Ironman, I actually don't like selecting Ironman because if I crash or anything like that during a let's play, it's kind of annoying not to have a backup, but you know, that's fine, we'll deal with it. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, now that our Robin Hood is ready, let's actually take a quick moment and talk about what we want to accomplish by the end of the game with our character. So we're going over to the Hero Builder, which is the database that I created to help keep me on track for building heroes. Basically, it's a blueprint for an endgame character that has everything that I want, and we'll be using this in all of our Let's Plays, but I won't be going into great detail because I do want to keep us on track and moving the story along quickly. Don't worry though, I will be creating a guide in the future to show you exactly how to use it so you can take advantage of that in your own playthroughs. So what are the key points here? So some of the important perks that we want to pick up. We want to pick up level 275 for bow for extra damage, level 175 athletics for another endurance, level 200 athletics for vigor, +1 vigor, mighty blow for athletics 275 for extra HP, the 2 smithing perks that give us +1 control and endurance. There's quite a few in scouting. I won't go over all of them because there's a lot of them, but they give us extra movement speed. We're going to need that. And then roguery, this is the one I'm excited about. This is a roguery and cunning heavy playthrough. So on roguery, we would like to keep bandit costs down because that's the majority of our troops. So we're going to take a +20 reduction on wages. And then towards the bottom on leadership, we're going to take loyalty and honor, which allows tier 3 troops to ignore retreat. So, and then back to the top, we will be putting 7 attribute points into control and cunning and 5 into endurance. We'll be putting 5 focus points into bow, scouting, roguery, athletics, and smithing, and 1 focus point into tactics and leadership each. There will be some spare points by the time we reach the end game, but these are definitely the must-haves, and these are the ones we'll be leveling up first. Alright, and now the next part, before we jump in, we'll go through this real quick. So there's some rules. As I mentioned before, this is an ultra-realistic hardcore campaign. We are adding quite a bit of difficulty, and I suspect it's going to be actually a little bit hilarious at times, but we'll see. So we're taking away all UI during combat. No arrow trails, no hit point markers, nothing. So we won't even have a crosshair. And we're doing a very bow-heavy playthrough, so we're going to have to eyeball it. First person perspective only, mostly going to be using two-handed and bow. We're not allowed any armor, only civilian gear, and combat must be fought on foot. We're allowed to have a mount, but once the fighting starts, we get to jump off. We have to be at war with everybody on the map, except for Batannia, because Batannia is the bandit capital of the Calradia. Only bandit and mercenary troops allowed. We can't hire anybody, we can't recruit any troops, prisoner troops, unless they're bandits or mercenaries. We can only farm in the Batannia area until clan tier 1, and then after that we have to get everything else from outside of the Batannian area. So that way we can't just sit there all day and farm looters. No tournaments allowed. We're allowed to make money mostly by killing and looting, ransoming people, raiding, missions from only from bandits. So in the towns, the people on the right hand side, those are the bandit ones. They do sometimes get missions, and then also gambling. Although I suspect we probably won't be doing a whole lot of that because I suck at those board games. Now, the goals that we're hoping to accomplish here. We need to reach clan tier 1 as fast as we can so we can get out of Batannia and start raiding people and causing mayhem. We need to find our Maid Marian and a good companion that would resemble Little John. We want to build up our wealth to about 100,000 dinars. We want to capture and execute leaders from each clan. Basically, this is to simulate the Sheriff of Nottingham. And then last but not least, we want to take back our beloved Gersegos castle so we can have our farm and retire in peace. And before I forget, let's take a look at some of the gameplay settings just so you can kind of see what we're doing here. So we turned off any aim corrector, no attack direction, no reticle, no damage reports, no casualty reports, no XP, no personal damage, no damage visuals. We can't turn off the sound for when we get a hit, a ranged hit. We're still going to have the bar at the top of the screen that tells you the balance of power for the current battle that you're in, and also the tab button. But what we're going to do to negate those is we're going to leave cheat mode on, and we're turning all the UI elements off. So we're not allowed to look at anything. When we get into a battle, we don't know how well we're doing, we don't know how many troops we lost, just like it would be in real life. You know, you don't have a heads-up display back in 1200. You would basically just have to get a report from your commanders, or you'd have to go see it yourself. So that's what we're doing. So let's get back into it. All right, and for our symbol, of course, we have to represent the archers. And let's just go with something a little funky. Let's make that a little smaller. I think that'll work. Yeah, I think that's it. And that about does it for episode 0, the setup episode. Thank you all for watching. I look forward to seeing you shortly on episode 1. I will be releasing both of these at the same time, so be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button so you don't miss it. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you on episode 1.